Hello and welcome to Not the Dragon Shed for another dragon food. Now I haven't done much in the way of sweet treat kind of recipes this year, so this will be my first opportunity to go a little bit crazy. Well, not crazy, but you know what I mean, a little bit less than healthy. So today I'm making some cookie press biscuits. They're also known as Swedish butter cookies or Spritz cookies. So it's basically a shortbread that's made slightly softer in terms of dough and then pressed out using a cookie press, and I'll get to that in a minute. So in my bowl here, of my stand mixer with a paddle beater on, I have 230 grams of butter unsalted and 85 grams of cream cheese. So it's very, very soft. So I'm just going to start that up. I'm also going to add in here a little bit of vanilla. Okay, so that is really light and really fluffy. So now I'm going to gradually, whilst it's on fairly low for a minute, add in my sugar. Equal weight of butter and sugar, and that was caster sugar. You can use icing sugar if you want to, but I didn't have enough, so I'm going with the caster. So this of course you can do by hand, but there's a lot of beating involved. You need to make sure that your butter is very, very soft if you can do it by hand. Make sure that everything is at the same temperature as much as possible. So my eggs are at room temperature, my flour's at room temperature, everything's at room, so everything works together in the right way. So now I'm going to add in my egg. And just mix that through. Look at that and go, oh my god, it's curdled, and it adds a little bit. But that kind of happens whenever you add something that is very liquid, i.e. an egg, to something that is very fatty, i.e. a whole load of butter. So it's going to curdle to some degree, but having everything at the same rough temperature reduces the amount of curdles. This goes for cakes, cookies, anytime you're adding an egg or something like that to butter. That's running again, I'm going to add my flour. And here I've got 310 grams of plain flour and half a teaspoon of cinnamon. Now in terms of a normal cookie kind of shortbread mix, the ratio of flour to butter is wrong. You normally have about half butter to flour, but because this is a soft presser cookie, it needs to be that much softer, and it also makes it taste nicer. Get a really rich buttery taste. Now I'm just gonna I think I need a little bit more vanilla in there. Sometimes you add lemon or something like that as a flavouring, but I think a good bit of vanilla is better. Keeps it quite simple and quite rich. And if you're brave enough to just taste your batter, you can feel whether or not the sugar's dissolved, and that's kind of where you want it. Got a measured amount, a measured dose time. This is really a basic one, it does the job. So I'm going to pick, eeny, meeny, miny, this one. So that goes into my front nozzle, and I'll just screw that on. Like that. And most of these kind of cookie presses have a bit of a recess, so that when you lay it down and press it and squeeze, you've got the space for the dough to sit. Some have got a really flat edge, so you kind of have to float above your tray, which isn't great. So, going to scoop and prod, should use a small spoon, my dough into here. If you're having some real problems with it, you can put it into a piping bag and then pipe it into the press. But I find that a bit unnecessary, really. So ideally you want to stuff this thing as full as you can. And tap it down to make sure everything's settled. Okay, so it's been rather warm recently and it's kind of stormy out there, so the dough was a little softer than I wanted, so I just put it in the fridge for about 15 minutes just to take the edge off. Now, the benefit of having a metal barreled press is that if this is too cold, you can actually apply some heat with your hand. But as it is, it should be about right, so I'm going to just do a practice squeeze on a plate. That's pretty much perfect. So, I haven't lined my trays, I've just given them a rub over with butter, and that's been in the fridge for 15 minutes or so, just to set the butter on top. There we go. And these stick quite neatly. You don't need to space these out particularly, you can really pack them on. Okay, so I think my battery just died then, so that was unfortunate. Right, if you don't have a cookie press, you can always use piping bags. Now, these aren't ideal because the heat of your hand is going to affect the dough, and over time they're going to get too sloppy, but it can be done if you work relatively quickly. Now, I haven't put any nozzle on this, so I'm just going for a plain round shape. It's had 15 minutes or so in the fridge, so it is slightly cool, not very, so I need to work as fast as possible and just pipe little rings. Again, if you're using a fancy piping nozzle, then you can have little fluted ones, or you can use different presser plates and make different shapes of press cookies. I prefer doing them by hand. So as long as you're not piping too much, not too thick, this will be fine. And you can do fancy shapes like the press as well. So you can do a set of kind of petals like that, so it's the same sort of thing as you've got there. You may not be able to get the precise detail you can get with the other plates. For something like that, you're not going to sit and do that many holes, that many dots. But you can play about with it and you can do what you like. Just beware of any air you've got in the bag, and remember that when you're about halfway down, you're going to get a lot of hand warmth adding to the dough, so it's going to get a little sloppy. So I should have chilled my dough a little more, but never mind, these have come out okay. My oven is really picky and really difficult to work with. This tray was put in for 6 minutes, then turned around, and then another 6 minutes. But I've still got a lot of burning around the edges, and these ones here are probably a little underdone. So yeah, it's a great recipe, a great technique. if your oven likes you. And some of these other ones from the previous batch, that's just about done. When I take them off the tray, you leave them on the tray for a couple of minutes just to kind of set, because they're a bit soft when they come out. So yeah, some of those that are really bad, the ones that kind of sit in this area on the tray, no matter which way around the tray goes in, it's always that area on the tray. They go back, I turn them over and stick them back in the oven for about 90 seconds just to kind of finish them off, and then they're ready to go. So that one is one of the pressed cookies, and this one is one of my piped kind of 5 dots. So they're not that much different. Oh. So yeah, there's not that much different really between the piped and the press cookies. So you could just go straight to piping really. But with the piped ones you do get more variation and more selection really to go with. So I'll leave them on the tray to cool down for a couple of minutes, and then they still warm. They just lift off a small amount of pressure like that, because they're buttered. So yeah, it's still a bit hot, so I'll leave them a little longer. And that's cookie press biscuits, sort of. Well, only piped cookie press biscuits done. I'll see you again next week.